I'm going to tell you a story, but the first thing you have to understand is time does not work the way you think it does. You can call me Oracle because I'm the one who's talking to you. Welcome to the cult. So, I'm going to get started on this. I showed this in a previous episode. I'm going to get into it. Book of Troth. So, this is something I'm going to basically is something in conjunction or thasra, intersection with, not magic, because truth and troth, because this is a lot about essentially living in a sacred manner with an emphasis on personal honor, near as I can tell. It's part of the Lellowman's Teutonic Magic series, which means in theory it's about like the Norse, that sort of thing. All right. What is Troth? Essentially, Troth is bhakti. It's faith. Um, like I plight my troth in thee means I place my trust, loyalty, or faith in you. It's bhakti, you know. The way. So bhakti is based on what one does or what one experiences. It is not based on external authority from any source. Method stands on three keys: historical tradition, observation of the world, and personal experience. Which is honestly a lot of what this channel goes over already, is it goes over pre-existing historical tradition, specifically in Buddhism, like largely, but in other areas too, as well as observation of the world. A lot of this is me just my observations and my personal experiences. So we're looking at the historical tradition. Another threefold process is used: rational, scientific, transpersonal, and psychological, and personal, subjective. So that's actually a good point in terms of the transpersonal, because of at least in terms of this channel, a large part of things I've done is or talked about is things like Adabenti Liga, like transcending gender. That's part of the transpersonal, like psychological aspect of, a lot of people have a lot of gender hangups, and I'm actually talking more about like cis people who like have problems coming to terms with the fact they're attracted to trans people. Like, it's just like, guys, just be okay with what you're attracted to and you'll be fine. All right. Elder history, talking about a lot of the Troth tradition and its influence with other religions, usually, actually pretty specifically, Christianity, because Christianity kind of did a lot to wipe out a lot of Scandinavian pagan practices, along with the Celtic Druidic practices. I mean, they're having a resurgence, sort of like the Bardic College that I understand actually really exists in Europe. I mean, specifically in England. Newer history. Uh, they said talked to many, but in Northern Europe, Christianity never really took hold. Yeah, a lot of the Viking territory, actually, there's a lot of resistance to Christianity in general, and they would still like they would convert, but they would still practice all of their like their Vidya Harikapa, all their like Fey rites, like passing of the like Vidya Hari Sengi to like fairy tales and stuff. Ooh, look, 9 Worlds of Yggdrasil. Woof. Talking about giants. Alright. So there's a couple ways you can consider this. So there is the 9 worlds with us, Midgard in the middle. Midgard is Mahadevsya, is physical reality. Here's the thing about a lot of this is because this kind of inherently recognizes that there's a phosphor between Suksma and Sula. There's an intersection between physical and non-physical. And Asgard is often terms of going in, if that makes sense. And versus Jotunheim, which is has a specific, I believe it's a specific. Because here's the thing: there's this word in Scandinavian called gard. It means enclosure, and so Midgard is the middle enclosure. So physical, it's sort of like Triloka. So like Svarga, heaven, Naraka, hell, and Mahadesya, the middle. They're all kind of partitioned from each other. Like hell isn't here, neither is heaven. They exist in fleeting moments, but they're sort of like eternal in the Sula, in the Mahazunya Mahasvapna, and they chill there, doing their thing, while we have our fleeting moments of heaven and hell on earth. We have Asgard, so there's Asgard or Asgard, and then Heim. So Heim basically means home. So there's Ljos Alfheim versus Svartalfheim. And that's basically light elf home and dark elf home. So Geotis Yogini, Vasra, Chaya Yogini. So basically like light elves versus shadow elves, essentially. And that's actually an interesting point that the Vidyahari were always looked at from the Norse point of view as being like, they're not human, they're not Jiva, but they're so close sometimes we forget in a way that offends them, so we gotta be careful. So, and then there's Helheim. Helheim is the home specifically of Loki's daughter Hela. It is traditionally looked at as the equivalent of Hell. It's as like the equivalent of Narak in Norse cosmology, which is why it is where it is. Which it's almost like Svartalfheim is almost like Patala. It's sort of like the part of the underworld that sort of encroaches upon physical reality, that like connects to it. That's part where like the dark elves chill, I guess. Which actually kind of makes sense if from the line of dawn as like the Brahmareka, like the line that basically makes like physical reality possible. With the Sele being of the light being on like the light side, and the Unsele being on the dark side, that actually kind of makes sense to me. And then on the lower hand, you have Muspelheim and Jotunheim. And then going upwards, you have Vanaheim and Niflheim, which is actually kind of interesting. Like, a lot of people look at Niflheim as sort of like an ice hell. But it's actually, if I understand correctly, the home of the ice giants, which is why it goes off in the direction of the giants. Whoop. This way be giants. And so Vanaheim is the home of the Vanir. That's essentially it's essentially where the Yaksha are from, more or less. It's where like the Yaksha and the Apsara, like the nature spirits, that aren't like specifically human aspects always, but a lot of times they are. Like, strictly speaking, Freya is one of the Vanir, and she became one of the Asia, one of the Aish by Bondu, by marriage, by Vivaha. All right, that covers that. All right. The shape, and that's the shape of the world. Lore. All right, I'm gonna do lore. Quick thing on lore, and then we'll go. Then I'll be done. Lore is that which has been left behind, like tracks of an animal hunting. Like, so there's tradition, and there's if you've ever watched Supernatural, it's checking the lore. It's actually stuff like this, reading books like this, doing research. Occasionally, it involves going on Wikipedia, because like Wikipedia, believe it or not, actually really good at a lot of stuff. So, lore, form of tradition, power, content of tradition. Oh, yeah, that's actually kind of a good point. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. Check my phone then. All right. The way of doing. More than a way of thought or belief, the Troth is a way of doing or being. In most religions, or in philosophies bordering on religions, we speak of the ideology of the system, that is the teaching concerning its ideas. I guess you would consider this me preaching. I mean, I try not to preach, but whatever. If you want to consider it a preach prayer, like a preaching pronouncement, that's actually, I talk a lot about like religious and like magical stuff. So like, whatever. That's actually kind of a valid point. I don't think that's exactly the correct one, but it is a valid perspective. With Troth, we should perhaps more rightly speak of its practicology, that is, teaching concerning its practices or things a true man or woman does. The true essence of religion or a philosophical system is seen in what its practitioners do, not in what they say, or in the rationale of their actions. Action is therefore what is essential in the Troth. Action is the surest and highest measurement of truth and right. Actually, that right there says it all. Karma, action, is the anthem of Asra, the ultimate intersection of Satya, or truth, and Urta, and righteousness. Because, like, when they're talking about right, they're not talking about, like, oh, the right wing. No, they're talking about, like, Urta. They're talking about righteousness. And it's like, it's an interesting about, like, anger and hate. Anger and hate have this ability to make you feel like you have the Urta. Oftentimes when you don't. Now, the thing about anger is that anger can be stoked by witnessing injustice. That's one of the times when Urta's like, wake up. That's when Urta Jagarati booty. That's like when righteousness like awakens your wits. It's like, yo, that ain't cool. I ain't gonna stand by that. I ain't gonna accept that. That pisses me off. That's Urta speaking. Unfortunately, because we're all Jiva, we're all human here. Sometimes our perception of what's Urta can run away with us, and have to understand, like, Urta is like a bala. It is its own force. Like, it's not something that you can always have. That doesn't work that way. There's no way you can always be in the right. That's just delusional thinking. Thinking that you can always be right and won't ever be wrong. That is choosing to be wrong. To believe that you always ask the Urta. To believe that you're always existing in righteousness, that you always have righteousness. That is choosing to have, like, bhakti in a non-reality. Because that actually can't happen. Alright, I'm done. This is Oracle, gonna sing myself out. Speaking about truth and troth, all we out. Dream safely out there, you and the weave. Coming from the Kuna, Oracle me.